So we had an eclipse, and we also had some people thinking that it was going to be the rapture, that Jesus was going to come back and take everybody home. It was going to be another end of the world doomsday type scenario, but we're all still here. Now, I don't know how many doomsdays it is that I've lived through so far, but there's been quite a few of them. And it got me to thinking back to the very first time I heard a really true end of the world, hellfire and brimstone sermon. I was a little kid, and the Pentecostal preacher that I sat under, he was like the most humble, soft spoken dude you ever seen off stage. Like when he wasn't on the pulpit, he was just really quiet and laid back. And then when he got on the altar, it was all raw. I mean, it was like in your face, so hardcore that as a kid, I was kind of freaked out by it, because he goes from being this soft spoken, gentle dude to being this fire breather in just a matter of seconds. And people would tell me to not question anything he was saying. Don't question him now, because that's the Spirit of the Lord moving on him. So whatever you do, don't say anything about it. But I couldn't help but still have questions, because so much of it didn't make sense. He's sitting there telling us that in the last days, if you don't accept the mark of the beast, you won't be able to buy or sell anything at the store. And then they're going to come along and they're going to ask you if you believe in Jesus. And if you say you do, they're going to kill you and do away with you. And I mean, he laid it on so thick that I was scared to go to sleep. I was like, oh man, this is rough. It's going to be bad, because he was saying, oh, it's going to happen right now. And this is like the late 80s, oh, it's coming. It's going to happen. We're in the last days right now. Oh, the 90s are coming and it's going to be over before then. And I'm like, oh, scared out of my mind. So I go talk to my grandpa, who was a Christian. He believed in God. He believed Jesus was the Son of God. He went to church once in a blue moon. But my granddad was an old World War II veteran, and he drank like a fish. I mean, he could have drunk Hank Williams or George Jones under a table. And he made it to 78 years old, so I'm just hoping that I inherited his genes is all I can say. But I just remember walking into his room, and I could smell the whiskey in the air, and he's just sitting on the side of the bed, probably playing his banjo or something like that. And I just walked up to him, and I was like, hey, Pap, I was like, the preacher just scared the living hell out of me. Oh, yeah, what'd he say? And so I told him the big sermon that the guy gave. And my grandpa looks at me and is like, you know what? If I was you, I really wouldn't worry about it. He's like, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't lose no sleep over it. I said, why is that? He said, well, I was born in 1913. And he said, they was saying that when I was a little boy like you. They was telling me the same stuff. Preachers around here was saying the exact same thing, word for word. And he said, here we are. I was like, really? He said, yeah. He said, it used to scare me when I was younger. He said, but then I grew up, and the longer I got here, the longer I lived here, the more I realized that they've been saying that since the beginning of time. He said, even in the Bible, the Apostle Paul was preaching the end of the world. He thought the world was coming to an end even then. He's like, so I really wouldn't worry about it. He said, because as I grew up and got older, he said, I ended up going to the war. He said, and when I got over there and saw everything that was going on with Hitler and the Germans and everything that was going on over there, he said, I could sit and read the book of Revelation and I could make it fit. And I thought I was smart. I thought, oh, I'm really smart. I've got one up on these people. Because he said, I could look and I could say, well, wait, that symbol, that must be the mark of the beast. And he's raising his right hand in the air. And yeah, the number 666 applies to him. And he said, I could sit there and I could make it fit. And he said, then I survived that war and I made it home. He said, then my brother went off to Korea. He said, while my brother was over in Korea, I was looking at the Bible and I was making it fit. And I thought, oh, I've got it. I'm smart. He said, then my brother came home from Korea. He said, then my nephews went to Vietnam. He said, the 60s rolled in. He said, you had the Kennedy assassinations, both Kennedys getting killed. You had Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, all the assassinations that happened and all the turmoil that was in the country. And he said, I could look to certain things and go, oh, this is it. We're in the end times. He said, then the 60s came and went. He said, you had people like Charles Manson going out and carving X's in his forehead and convincing his followers to slaughter people. And you worried and thought, oh, maybe he's the Antichrist. And he said, then we lived through that. He went to jail. He said, then along comes Jim Jones and he gets 900 people to drink a bunch of Kool-Aid and kill over dead. And he's like, now, we're heading into a war in Iraq. And he said, I could look over there at Saddam Hussein and I could say, well, he's it. He said, you could always find a way to apply that book to whatever's going on. You can interpret it to mean whatever you think it means at whatever time frame you're in. He said, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. He's like, so if I was you, he said, I would just live my life the best I could. I'd treat people the way I wanted to be treated, and I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in it. I just live my life, because while you're busy worried about all that stuff, life's happening. You could be enjoying it. So just enjoy your life. Go out in the yard and play. Don't worry about it. They're not coming after you. Nothing's going to happen to you. And I go to that man's grave at least once a month, twice a month, sometimes more than that, just depending on what I'm struggling with at that point in my life. And I stand there and I talk to his grave as though he's still right here with me, and I carry on conversations, and I never fail to thank him for telling me that. And I never forget to tell my kids the same thing, which is, you know what? Don't sit and read a bunch of bullshit into something that you really don't know nothing about. Eclipses happen, okay? They happen all the time. But when they happen in this part of the world, suddenly it's a conspiracy. Suddenly it's a religion. Suddenly suddenly somebody knows something you don't. No, they don't. They're no smarter than you. They're no better than you just because they cooked up some theory while driving the forklift around at work. And I use that phrase a lot, but I used to drive a forklift, okay? I did for several years. So I'm not throwing shade at forklift drivers. I've been the forklift driver at work. I have. But you know, it's like just because somebody comes up with some kind of opinion about something doesn't mean it's true. And just because it doesn't make them special. It doesn't make them more educated than you. It just shows them for how stupid they truly are. And it really makes me sit and question, is this how religion really came to be? I mean, is this how it was all born? Was Noah just the Marjorie Taylor Greene of his town? I mean, could it have just been possible that it was just a damn flood? That's all it was, Noah. It was just a flood. Could Sodom and Gomorrah? I mean, it was probably just a meteor shower, but of course it got turned into hellfire and brimstone to the people they disagreed with. When you sit and you hear people like, as I grew up and I heard people like Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell make all these ridiculous claims saying that Hurricane Katrina was, sent to punish gay people and 9/11 was because of abortion and stuff like that. You hear that stuff and then you go back and you question stories like Sodom and Gomorrah and go, wait a minute. Was there really anything going on in those towns, or was it just a bunch of people with a stick up their ass that didn't like those people and tried to say God did it? It really makes you question the whole thing. And what people don't realize is that it actually just dilutes the whole thing to where it really doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. The more that you sit and say this stuff, thinking you're smart and thinking you're one-upping people. I can't count the times it's happened in my life. I've had people come to me and tell me, I know when the world's ending, you better get right. And I'm like, really? Now, why did God pick you out? Why did he look down on little old sleepy Tennessee and find this little mustard stain on the map and he picked you to tell that to? Why couldn't he have said it to me? Why couldn't he have informed all of us? And there's a reason why I'm wearing this Jesse Gemstone shirt. It's because he's the only preacher I can tolerate listening to, okay? Because it's just funny and I can laugh at it and I can enjoy it for the brilliant comedy that it is. But to sit under the real thing and to think, oh, that guy knows something, that's just another dude. That's just another dude who found out that he can make $1 selling some bullshit and he's grifting people. So, there'll be another eclipse and there'll be another claim of a rapture and the end time will get predicted again and it'll come and it'll go and we'll all still be sitting here. And every time it happens, I'm just going to think every time it happens, I'm just going to think of my granddad. I'm going to think about what he taught me and I'm going to repeat it to my kids and go, don't worry, kids, just go out in the yard and play. Have a good time. Because we got one shot through this world. I truly believe that. And if there's something on the other side, I'll figure that out when I get there. Somebody somewhere saying that I'm coughing because the Lord is trying to reach me, but that's bullshit too. I just didn't clear my throat before I started. That's all it is. It's that simple, folks. It's that easy. Get out there, live your life. You got one shot through it. When it's over, the lights are going out. And if the lights are going out, I would much rather be remembered as the dude that tried to speak some common sense as the dude that just constantly walked around and got his predictions wrong. Because at the end of the day, what do you win? If you're right and you predict the end of the world, I mean, it's not like you're going on Good Morning America the next morning to tell everybody about it. So live your life, drink plenty of water, and be good to people. That's Brando's advice. And quit listening to all these ridiculous theories just because the moon passed in front of the sun.